Hello.
Hey, Joel. Thanks for agreeing to do the interview.
No problem at all. How do you pronounce your first name?
Garrick.
Garrick. All right. Well, yeah. How's it going, Garrick?
Oh, it's going good. Yeah, it's been a good day. How about you?
Oh, it's the same here. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about upcoming Thrawsunblat and some of the previous stuff with that. So I guess I'll jump into it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I know you had recently posted up just like a keyboard and vocal excerpt of one of the upcoming tunes. So how's the process with the album at this point?
Oh yeah, that's a nice little excerpt from the middle of the first song. The process is going great. Actually, well, the album was 100% finished musically just I guess last Tuesday, but it was also 100% finished musically about 2 weeks before that. But then with 5 songs, and then this other song just sort of popped out of nowhere. So 6 songs now for a grand total of about like 55, 56 minutes now. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff. Got 6 songs, each one of them sort of between 8 and 12 minutes long. And it's kind of like it's going to have the same sort of soundscape as the previous album, as Wanderer, but it's going to go back more the black metal side of things than the folk metal side of things. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So is it gonna compared to the last album, is it gonna continue sort of the concept lyrically, or is it gonna go into different directions?
Well, it is going to have a concept for sure. In the same way that Wanderer had a concept, but it's going to go with a different concept. So that's actually probably been one of the more challenging things about the album is getting that concept nailed down and sort of fleshing it out and figuring the whole thing out, because it's something that it's something that hasn't been done really, I guess. So it was kind of that's kind of what you want to do with an album, is do something new. So that's been a big fun challenge of it. So I'm excited to see how it all comes together and how it's received.
Yeah. So was the writing process on this one any different? Because you mentioned all the songs are quite long, so it's maybe a bit more of an epic approach than the previous stuff. But so how was the process in writing compared to the last album and before that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It actually was a bit different. So before, for Thrawsunblat 2, I wanted to do, I guess I was looking to make a decent length album, like an hour. So I kind of wrote as many songs as were needed, and I had 4 or 5 extra. But this time I wanted to write the best songs that I could. So I did a little poll on the Thrawsunblat Facebook page there, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago. Basically the question was, what's the most Thrawsunblat song to you? Which ended up sort of being, what's your favorite Thrawsunblat song? I guess in the way the responses came back, and I took a peek at the first, I think the top 4 or 5 songs. They were all of the same sort of structure, which the sort of type of song that always goes forward and doesn't come back around to itself. Songs like Vast Land and Black Sky and Once Fire Veined and View of a Million Trees, they all sort of have 2 halves to them, and they don't kind of come back to the first idea. They just move on to something new and end on that. So what I wanted to do was, I guess, keep writing more songs like that. So basically, the way it worked out with this one, I talked a lot with Ray and Brendan and the drummer and the bass player, and talked about what we kind of wanted to do with this album. Where would be a cool place to go musically, and we kind of unanimously decided that it'd be good to kind of go a little bit, like you say, a little bit more epic. I guess the word we kind of used was like immersive and atmospheric. So basically what ended up happening was I ended up writing where those other ones I was mentioning sort of had two sections. So all these songs are basically split into three sections, and each one sort of progresses. And so it was a neat sort of process because it's the first time I'd written songs that long, but it all sort of came together pretty well, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds pretty exciting. And so for maybe for the vocal aspect, how does the ratio of the harsh vocals versus the clean vocals kind of measure out in this one compared to Wanderer on the Continent of Saplings?
That's a good question. What do you think they would have been in Wanderer? I haven't really looked at that.
I don't know. Like it was actually almost, I'd say, roughly 50-50, although there were a few tunes that were mainly clean vocal based, I guess, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I think that's kind of the number I was looking. That popped into my mind too. So I think it's about the same actually. There's some parts that just scream to have vocals, clean, gorgeous kind of harmonies over top of them, and there's some parts that are just need to be harsh and just have that sort of real aggressive, set you on fire sort of, feel to them. So it's about 50-50 again, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And which of those did you find kind of came more naturally to you when you were first working on your vocal chops?
Oh, geez. Let me think here. It's interesting because some of the riffs just will kind of pop out words, just sort of kind of the way the rhythm kind of comes out of the melody, and so some of those are really nice. Like for example, that one. On the piano there that you mentioned earlier, that those lyrics just sort of just happened out of the melody, so it was that was nice and convenient. So so that was good, and I find that those ones seem to be pretty, at least 9 times out of 10, those end up being fairly genuine lyrics that really match what's going on musically too. So so those are always really they just happen, and then there they are, and then they're kind of set. So those are really nice.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, and then also for the guitar work stuff, I'm kind of interested in going back a little bit. What were some of your original guitar influences and stuff like that before you had been in any bands or whatever?
Oh, geez. So I think some of my favorite stuff. Can we go back? Oh, geez, we're talking early 2000s here. Jeez,
yeah,
here we go. The first Ensiferum album is one of my favorite things out there. Just in terms of just guitar work and atmosphere and stuff. I think lots of Amon Amarth. That stuff's fantastic too. And I think like Dissection, Storm of the Light's Bane. That's obviously some Emperor in there too. And lots of, I guess, Vindir. I don't know, spelled Windir. I don't know how most people pronounce it, but those sorts of things. And actually, you know what? I guess some of the music that's really stuck to my bones the longest is like I don't know if you're much of a video game guy, but the game Chrono Trigger when I was like at 10 or something like that. The music from that, it's never left me. So that sort of stuff really, it all sort of just kind of finds its way into this odd sort of musical canvas that becomes, I guess, Thrawsunblat.
Yeah. I'm familiar with the game. I haven't played it myself though, but I'm definitely interested in the soundtrack just based off of that.
It's so good. And the band Camel. I just love Camel. Their first 4 albums are just absolutely spectacular.
Oh yeah, I love Camel too. Yeah.
What are your favorites?
Oh yeah, I do love like the Moon Madness and Snow Goose type era stuff.
Yeah.
And I do like some of their last couple too, like Rahaz, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yes. Yeah. I really like that one too.
Yeah, those don't get as much focus because obviously it's after the classic lineup, but yeah. But anyways, so going back to some of your stuff, when you're doing some of the songs you do solos on, that's something that kind of in the classic black metal tradition you usually wouldn't get very much of. And in folk metal even a little bit less, less or more so. But when you're going in to put a solo on a song, how do you kind of approach composing it? Is it more improvisational, or is it kind of structured? And you think, okay, this song fits that, I'm going to put that in there. How do you approach it?
Yeah, it's let me think here. It's the sort of thing that there. I guess sometimes there are almost kind of leftover melodies that haven't quite got a vocal line. You know, they didn't quite get a vocal line assigned to them, or that sort of thing. So it's sort of my way to I guess some of these leftover melodies to get into the song or that sort of thing. And some parts, you know, it's just nice to, I guess, take a break from vocals and keep something interesting happening. And so yeah, it all depends on the song. Like some songs are just a weird tempo to kind of do, something interesting solo wise over. So some songs don't get them, and some songs just kind of scream for them, like that in like the title track on Wanderer, the second half of the song. It just when the drums kick right back in, that's just the solo just needed to happen there. So it's a bunch of different ways, I suppose.
Yeah. And also, I thought it was interesting on the last Woods album, the solos you did on that. They were a bit more prominent in the feature of the music than they had been on some of the previous Woods of Ypres albums. But was that something you were very hands on about, or was it something you came back in and you heard the songs like, oh, maybe I'll add a solo here or anything like that?
Well, it was one of those things where so David and I, when we wrote Woods 5, the first two, we just wrote it in the month of July, 2011. First 2 weeks, we just wrote song skeletons, basically. We each contributed 6. And then David's term for it was we put them all in a room and shut the door. And at that point, we had free reign to sort of, do what we wanted to do with them. And so the approach we kind of took was, listen to the songs, blah, 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 work on them, come up with stuff. If the part works, awesome. If it doesn't quite work, then don't use it. And so there were some parts where David would leave in his song skeleton. He'd like kind of leave it a little bit empty, and he'd say, "Okay, there's a solo that needs to go here. If you can do one, or whatever." And so we were, I guess I kind of looked at, where could I put solos, just because of the fact that we were looking to do a sort of dark rock sort of album, which solos kind of work a little bit more natural on that sort of album. So I tried to put them in where I could, and but of course, following the rule is, does this work here? The answer is yes, we use it. The answer is no, we don't. So no, that's kind of how it went.
Yeah. Do you also play rhythm guitar tracks on that album?
Yeah. So the songs that I wrote, I played the rhythm guitars, and then the songs that David wrote, he played the rhythm guitars, and so yeah, that's basically kind of how it ended up working.
Oh, cool. Was that actually the first album in the, I guess, basically in that discography where there was another songwriter besides David? Because when I look at a lot of the earlier ones, when they list the credits on the album, they're just like, oh, all songs written by David Gold or whatever,
Yeah, actually, I think it was, and I'm kind of pretty honored about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a pretty fun creative process. I sent David a couple demos in March, when we finished our winter sort of March North American East Coast tour, and he was he's like basically it was that same sort of attitude, come up with stuff. If it works, great, we use it, and if it doesn't, then we don't. And so I sent him a couple demos, and he was pretty stoked about them. So we just kind of kept on that same track, and we each ended up being 6. Was just we each wrote half the album, so it was it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I've always thought was interesting about that album too, in terms of the recording of it, is that the vocal approach is it's a bit different than on the previous albums, especially because it seemed like he was using a lot more of that really deep, kind of gothic low register. Was that something that he talked about doing that before he went into record it, or did it just come out that way?
Oh yeah, no, it was we that month of July we just wrote the album and chatted the album. And we talked about what kind of vocals do we want to do, and we talked about a lot of lyric concepts and stuff. And he was we wanted to do sort of as a model. We in terms of a few aspects of an album. We kind of looked at Catatonia's Last Fair Deal Gone Down as a sort of model for the album, just in terms of what kind of mood we want to set and what kind of album we want it to be. We sort of wanted it to be something you could just turn on at a party and just kind of just let go. And so we and in terms of, I guess, vocal stuff, David, that wasn't too long after Pete Steele died, who was one of David's big idols.
Yeah.
And so he talked a lot about, of course, the "Kiss My Ashes" song. That whole thing's sort of about, when celebrities pass away, how everyone kind of loses their mind over them and kind of forgets. That's when they decide to, like, really appreciate them, or whatever. And so he definitely channeled his inner Pete Steele on a lot of vocals for that track. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too, because on watching some of the live shows that are up there from 2011, 2010, and just from like Woods 4 era, like he didn't use as much of that style live, even compared to like on the studio versions of some of the Woods 4 stuff. But I guess then again, it's probably pretty hard to sing really low parts over a heavy, loud guitar and drums.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So did you guys talk at all about what songs you're wanting that would in theory be in a set list, or was that kind of like you recording the album, writing the album, that didn't really become a topic?
I think, well, we jammed all the songs out when we were writing them. So with David on the drums and me on the guitar, and one of our goals was to make them all, well, at least as many as possible, playable live. Kind of have one rhythm part and one lead part to kind of be going on at once. So they were all we were pretty stoked to kind of have, like, open a set with Lightning and Snow and that sort of thing. So they were all fair game, really. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I was always kind of curious about how that was going. So for going back to Thrawsunblat a bit, now of course you started out with Canada 2010. And then of course, a couple of years later, you did the full-on Thrawsunblat 2.
Mm-hmm.
And was there, given that the Thrawsunblat 2 was like, it was really, it seems at least to be, it was the album you were really involved with, and you were doing vocals and you were handling all the guitar work. Did you have any nerves going in to record that album at all, or was that kind of, you didn't even think about it because you'd already recorded before, and it was like, okay, we got these songs and they're really strong. How did that go?
Oh, well, yeah. So it was neat because I'd gotten the entire kind of songwriting experience, not just like writing songs once in a while, but spending 2 months writing and recording music every day. I'd kind of gotten that under my belt, so that really gave me lots of not just confidence but ammo for Thrawsunblat 2. So I knew, I knew the songs were good and that sort of thing. And so, but it was actually pretty. What's the word here? It's pretty. Geez, my brain right now. Not much is stress free because it was pretty much the same. It was actually less stressful than doing Canada 2010 because for Canada 2010, David recorded all the drums. I sent him all the demos, and he recorded all the drums in the studio. And then for me, at that point, I didn't have a recording setup, so I basically had to rent everything. So I rented like a big couple microphones and a big half stack from Long and McQuaid, and and so I had to finish it all within a week. And get the guitar sound right and get all the guitars tracks in within a week, or I was gonna have to pay more for the rentals, etc. So that ended up being stressful. Whereas in whereas for Wanderer, I did it all basically on my own time whenever was convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that was pretty good because we worked with Siegfried Meyer, the same guy that we did Woods 5 with. That's who we worked with for Thrawsunblat 2. So, so in terms of doing, it was just I guess it was even more fun really because you don't burn yourself out and you get to, listen to the songs back, and if you find a new little vocal line that you might like, then you get to just throw it on top. And the same with solos and the same sort of thing. It was a much more, easy going sort of process.
Mm-hmm, yeah. How would you say you kind of approach, like you mentioned, going back over songs and you might see a part that you could change a little bit? When you're just writing songs, how much do you usually end up editing yourself? Are you like, nope, you got to cut that part, change this? Like, how harsh on yourself are you when you're writing it, or or is it maybe not too extreme in that way?
Oh, geez, it's a good question. I think usually when I'm writing, it's like it feels like I'm sort of laying like railroad track across like untouched country, sometimes, like when you just start a song, it's like, kind of like, just clearing the way and like laying it all by hand to get like what the next part's going to be and how it's going to transition and that sort of stuff. So that's I think the hardest part. And then once I get a song sort of, in its complete sort of form, where I can drive a train across it, kind of to complete the analogy. Then at that point I'll be like, okay, well, this transition maybe doesn't, work the best. So maybe I'll cut this, or I'll add room for this. But I just kind of, I think I listened to it back a lot. So that's probably the most demanding part of it. It's just not that it really feels demanding, but I guess I do listen to the stuff a bunch. So but yeah, so that sort of, it feels kind of like editing an essay or something like that. It's done, but then you kind of see little bits and pieces along the way that you're like, oh well, this changed this and then this and that. So it's I usually once I get a song in its form, then that's when it becomes easier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool to know. So are there any plans for Thrawsunblat to be doing a tour with this new upcoming album, or is it kind of too early to say?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the next. We've been doing lots of talking about it, and I'm pretty excited about the prospect of it. So I've been playing on a live band, a live maritime folk band here in Fredericton. Kind of getting it's kind of getting the live, getting back into it because I've been missing it. But so with Thrawsunblat, basically we're working on the album, nose to the grindstone right now, and so once we've got that in our pocket, then the next thing is going to be to tackle the question, how do we get this, how do we play this live, how do we make it happen, and so that's kind of the next big problem to solve. Yeah,
because I was looking around actually to see if there was any Thrawsunblat live shows before this, and I couldn't find too much information on it. Have you guys actually not played live yet?
Nope. No. No, the maritime band I've put together here. We do Maritime Shores and Goose River. It's actually Jeff Mott, the fiddler, on Thrawsunblat too. He's also in this band with me. So we do renditions of those, but we haven't. I don't think they're on tape yet. So,
yeah,
that's the closest thing. Yeah, so it'd be really cool to make it happen because I get to hang out with Ray and Brendan for like a month, and they're just the coolest people. So, but B, get to play some live Thrawsunblat and get to meet folks all over the place. It's a pretty exciting prospect. So I'm gonna try to make it happen for sure.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And for Thrawsunblat too, and actually, let's just say all the stuff you've done. What are you kind of looking at as being some of the songs you most look forward to playing live? Because there's a variety of different kinds of tunes on that album, and then also Canada 2010.
Yeah, I think I think Black Sky, of course. That one's just a blast. I think the one that I'm really looking forward to playing live would be also Once Firebrained. That's got some really cool parts that would be just a blast. Just those parts when you listen to it in the song, and it just sets you on fire. There's plenty of spots in that song that do that, and it'd be really cool to hear Sierra Boreal played live too. I think because it's got I really like just kind of the way that the song flows, and so those ones for sure. And maybe I think Song of the Nihilist would sound pretty heavy live because of how much kind of air there is to the riff. So that's actually, you're getting me excited here.
yeah. I was thinking about that, like, for if they were to do a show, because I couldn't find the information. I'm like wondering what the set list would be like,
What would your ideal set list be?
Oh, well, I don't know. It'd be hard to pick like a starting track and an ending track, but I definitely think Song of the Nihilist would be cool live, because that's one that I've always liked. It's very kind of like anthemic too, but it's also quite heavy. And then, of course, Goose River and Maritime Shores have that kind of the more straight folky kind of vibe. That'd be cool. And I really like Life Floor Revelation too. Like the first one on
cool.
that album.
Glad you said that, because that song's taken a lot of flack for being.
Oh, it has.
People are like, why'd you start off a metal album with a piano? It's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Yeah, that piano riff was something that I was messing around with like in like Woods 5 writing time. And it was obviously wasn't a Woods 5 riff in any way, shape, or form. But I remember just playing it on the piano at David's place. And he's like, "Dude, that's a cool riff. You should start off an album with that."
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that one had gotten criticism for that. No, I thought that was a cool, kind of unexpected way for the album to begin. But yeah, and then also I also Borea, Pyre of a Thousand Pine. That one would be probably pretty awesome live, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I wonder if I could pull off that the scream at the start. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I passed out doing it just standing up and like just doing it without a guitar and without a crowd. That's yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be good. But yeah, I remember Dave Gold talking about a time when the opening scream to Shams, him like out like seeing stars and almost falling on his ass after doing the opening scream. But
Is that kind of a thing? I don't know if I'd say frequent occurrence, but when you're recording harsh vocals, do you ever have those moments where you're like, well, that was an intense take right there, you know? Or...
Oh yeah, the tunnel vision happens all the time because yeah, yeah, because I really it's funny as people ask me, people who know me from things other than music, they're like, oh, you do music here? Well, let me see some of your stuff, and so I'll show them, and they'll be like, they'll hear Maritime Shores, and it's like, oh wow, that's nice, and then they'll hear like Borea or like any of the other ones, and they're like, oh my God, how do you do that without ruining your voice? I'm just like, well, if I'm honest, the only time I really do that is when I'm recording an album. So I guess my point is that when I do it, I go all out, and yeah, so it's kind of fun because you've done a pretty good take if you almost pass out from it. So.
Yeah, no, I imagine so. I remember reading an interview. Actually, Devin Townsend talked about passing out after doing Happy Camper and stuff. So, it's not a bad sign if you're really feeling it afterwards.
Oh yeah, I know for
sure. So, and then for when you're tracking the clean vocal stuff, like there's that part on "Song of the Nihilist" where you're singing up pretty high and you're getting kind of gritty with the voice. Does that kind of stuff stress on the voice at all for you, or is that not too difficult to do compared to the black metal screams and stuff?
What's funny about that one? That again is literally the only time I've ever sang like that. So
yeah.
I wish I would have spent a little more time on it because it gets a bit pitchy in places. But no, it was cool because it kind of I guess what I was trying to do with that was to really distinguish between the character of the nihilist and the character of the wanderer in that song. So it's sort of the nihilist singing.
Yeah.
So it's so that was neat. I don't know. It was cool because I hadn't done that before, and it ended up turned out pretty decently. So I might throw a few more of those on this album now that you mention it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And also I was thinking when listening to the piano version you did of just the little snippet from that first song on the new album, I was kind of thinking, people have talked about before how stuff that's more kind of black metal translates pretty well to like a piano accompaniment approach or a more ambient approach. And is that a way that you have often approached like writing these really heavy songs and writing them separate on a piano or something, because then you can just get the melody and harmony kind of in its purest form? Or is that something that you just kind of decided to try out for more with this one?
No, you totally got it. I probably I absolutely love playing the piano just for the fact that you can play so many notes at once. You can fill out the bass line while playing a melody and a harmony at the same time, and it really helps me to get a feel for what the song, at least maybe not in terms of structure, but in terms of like sort of just kind of how the melodies go and the harmonies for them. So I definitely I guess when I think of an example here, well, of course, Life Low Revelation, that stuff all started on the piano. Set Us Ablaze on the first album. That's the chorus riff for that. That all started on a piano. And actually, the only reason that I didn't include a piano part for it on the album is because I didn't know how to mic a piano at the time, and the guy we were dealing with didn't want to tell me. So anyway. Yeah, and so it's definitely a large part of my process, especially with the Woods process. I think I wrote actually, well, you know the song Finality?
Yeah.
So that started out as a 180 beats per minute black metal tune. And,
wow, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, I know. and so I was again just playing the piano at David Gold's place, and then I just was kind of playing it just on the piano as a sort of nice sort of just playing it as it kind of would exist on the piano. And Dave was just like, "Whoa, that's really cool, dude. What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a demo I sent you the other day." He's like, "Oh, well, man, keep doing that. Keep going." And so that ended up turning into like this kind of really nice kind of piano. It's one of the songs that I find kind of has the coolest atmosphere to it on the whole album. So it's a really neat tool to kind of to be able to explore a song. So.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting too because when you're writing with guitar or really most other instruments for that matter, like you mentioned, you're kind of limited to hearing just one aspect of what the song is going to sound like when you're writing it. You know, with piano, you can kind of get an idea of almost the entire thing, even though it's just one instrument. So that I could imagine really helps fill out fill out the imagination when it comes to working out a song. So yeah, it's cool to get your opinion on that and everything. But yeah, and for when you do if the Thrawsunblat shows were to come into existence, since you had done there was the David Gold Memorial show and you did Silver with Ray on the tribute album, would you think of doing any of those kinds of songs that you had maybe helped write or wrote most of live as well in the set, or would it be best to keep it to Thrawsunblat because that's what you guys are working on nowadays? I
think it might be fun to maybe throw one in once in a while, but I think it would probably be a fairly Thrawsunblat affair.
Yeah.
Maybe a black metal version of Finality. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be a surprise for everyone.
Yeah, but actually, I don't know if you can hear this or not. I can play you the riff. Can you hear this guitar here?
Yep.
Okay, so it goes something like. Oh, hold on. There we go. So anyway, that's
cool.
Yeah, that's how it started. So.
Yeah, I can hear that being turned into a full black metal piece actually just from that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had an absolute. It's just 'cause the songs can be so many different things. But when you look at them in one medium versus another, they can totally transform and really kind of, because a lot of songs are just I don't know. For example, let's see here. I mean, some of Modern Earth songs, if you play them on the piano, they'd be just these gorgeous pieces of music. And so it's really neat to kind of see that. And so when you play them in this harsh, in this really harsh medium, they really just grab you and they don't let you go. So yeah, I think that's kind of, that, to me at least, if a song sounds nice on a piano, then if you put it in a harsh medium, then I find that's a really good combination.
Yeah, no, I can imagine so, and that's actually kind of a good principle within almost like the folk metal kind of approach too, or you have you already have a really good melody to start with, and that's why you can kind of build the aggression around that. Whereas if you're doing something that's more like an old school death metal album, you might just want to start with the guitar because you just get that aggression going right away. But it wouldn't necessarily. It might sound kind of strange played isolated on a piano, So I guess it kind of depends on the approach you're coming at it from,
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I know there's some death metal that some of it I love, and some of it I just can't quite get into because it just sort of can't really hum it,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like sort of this dissonant heaviness kind of placed first before the rest of it, which I like it too myself, but I also can see the advantages of approaching a song like that with the melody first, because then it's just gonna stick in your head more, and that's always a big bonus,
And even, you ever listen to The Crown?
I don't think so.
Ooh, you're in for a treat. They did an album called Possessed 13. I think it was the last album that they actually did before they disbanded. But yeah, it's probably one of my favorites. It's kind of like thrash death metal. Oh my goodness, man, that stuff. It's really melodic, but it's like really, really like gritty and like just absolutely. Yeah, I definitely recommend taking a peek at Possessed 13 by The Crown.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely have to. I'm curious now.
Yeah, especially if you enjoy the sort of the melodic nature of death metal. But yeah, it's a great I guess marriage of I guess melodiousness or melody and aggression. It's just great.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, and actually, on that note, would you say you generally follow the new releases each year that are kind of coming out within the metal rock scenes, and I guess whatever else you follow musically that way?
Oh, I wish I followed them more, but there's a period there when I think got I really got into a bunch of 2012 albums in 2013, and right now I'm listening to some 2014 albums now because I sort of identified the problem, but I was about a year behind for a little while there. But yeah, it's tough finding new stuff because I mean there's so much of it out there, but I guess I'm not. Cause I know when I was, like we're talking about at the start, like the early 2000s when I was just getting into stuff. It's like, that was the days of I don't know if you remember like DC++, those sort of peer like those kind of sort of I guess they're peer-to-peer file sharing stuff, and so you just kind of go on a user's share, and if he's got a bunch of or she's got a bunch of good stuff, you just like yank it all, and then you've got music for days. But I find it's it's a little bit different now. I haven't found that as much, but I'm definitely enjoying. There's some bands that I definitely keep an eye on, and when they put out something new, it's always really really good listen. Yeah. What about you anyway? What's anything from 2014 that's really floating your boat? Or?
Yeah, well, I've been kind of actually really enjoying the new Triptychon this year, the Melina Cosmata. That was cool. I've also been enjoying what I've heard so far of the new Devin album, Devin Townsend's Ziltoid 2, but I haven't actually bought it yet. I'm going into hopefully doing that soon.
I didn't even know that was out yet.
Yeah, it came out like 3 days ago or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my goodness, Ziltoid's one of my favorite albums.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big Devin fan in general, so I always try and keep up with what he's doing. Yeah, and I also am also a big fan of like Sanctuary, and I know they released a new album this year, and I got that, and I was pretty excited to hear what they sound like now, 25 years later. So that was cool too.
Go on through. Oh, so the new Bluthaus Nord. Have you listened to that one?
No, I haven't got around to that one yet.
Ooh, have you listened to them before?
Yeah, I've listened to some of their stuff. I haven't investigated them a ton, sadly.
They've got their Memoria Vetusta, I guess series. I think this is like the third kind of album in that series, I guess. And they're all fantastic. This new one especially. Really enjoying the new Panopticon. You ever listen to them?
No, but that's another case. I know the name really well though from some of the metal sites I go to.
Yeah, Austin Lund there. He's really involved in. He's a great guy too, and he's really involved in the kind of the underground North American black metal scene there. He played drums for the Falls of Rauros. I'm not sure if you listen to them, but anyway, so it's a good album. It's called Roads to the North, and that's another one I've been listening to, and also the new Solstafir album. I don't know if you listen to them or not.
Yeah, not too familiar with them, but that sounds pretty. Some of the ones you mentioned there sound pretty promising, so I'll have to get around to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Solstafir albums is pretty cool because it's pretty like. They're kind of post metal or post something, and so there's no real, there's no traditional song structures or whatever, and their riffs are really really interesting. But it's all good stuff. Yeah. But, I'm trying to think what else. I think I listen to lots of for whatever reason, from the year 1970 to the year 1975 or 1976, anything that kind of happened at that point, like it just really just grabs me. So I listen to lots of Uriah Heep. Some of my favorite albums are from that era too, and who else? Jethro Tull from then, and so Steel Eye Span. I don't know if you listen to them.
Yeah, I like some Steel Eye Span and Pentangle and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I really get stoked about that stuff too. So that takes up a kind of a large portion of my listening time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm also big into Jethro Tull as well, so that's cool. I like the whole thing about the '70s where it was kind of like that was an era where almost in the mainstream experimentation was so much encouraged, So
Yeah.
that's kind of makes it a unique era in that way, I guess.
What's your favorite Tull album?
Oh, I really like their like folk era, the songs from the Wood.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love that one, and also Heavy Horses,
Oh, I thought I was the only one who like loved Jethro Tull for that more than anything else. But
yeah,
I'm not alone. That's great. Yeah, Songs from the Wood just hauled me right in, and it was kind of I was listening to that at a time when I wrote Goose River actually. So yeah, I noticed when some of my demos for it, there was a bit of a Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson kind of sound to my voice. So I made sure to kind of make sure I went back to myself before I recorded the album. But it's definitely an influence. So.
Yeah, I can hear actually when you point that out. I can kind of see like some of the little bit of the vibe is there, but it's definitely when I just heard it without having known that I wouldn't have immediately compared the two. But that's cool, yeah. But yeah, and then I also do like Minstrel in the Gallery before that, kind of like that era of '75 to '79 for some reason, particularly with them.
Yeah, Minstrel in the Gallery, Heavy Horses, Songs from the Woods, and what's the other one?
Stormwatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good one too. I think those other three though were my kind of, but especially especially Songs from the Wood and Heavy Horses. Those are my two big ones. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know what it is about those two albums, but they're just kind of really, they're kind of really full. I don't know how to put it. They don't like they do these really interesting. Obviously Jethro Tull is quite proggy, but they do it in a way that's really folky, and it's not too like some prog just kind of just goes, and you're just like, what's even happening here? I can't really, but they do it in a folky way, which is one of the really really cool things that they do.
Yeah, that was we definitely kind of made them stand out amongst those bands, and plus obviously the usage of the flute in that way, and kind of, I mean there are some other bands that kind of did that to a certain extent with the flute and everything. I mean even Camel kind of dabbled in that too,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess that is one of their big signatures, So that's cool.
I saved for myself sort of in a way, Thick as a Brick until like this summer. I just like I know it's gonna be amazing because it's like the top of all the prog archives.
Yeah.
I didn't like go through the whole thing until like this summer, and I just listened to it like on repeat for just ages because it's just such an unreal album. I can't even begin to describe how good it is. So I don't know, maybe that had something to do with the reason I wrote long songs this summer, but
yeah, it's like subconsciously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find when you're actually going into a writing process, do you try to not listen to a lot of music before that because you're afraid it'll influence you, or do you just listen to a lot of music anyways?
It's a bit of both. Like it'll depend. Like if I'm listening to Jethro Tull a bunch, and if I go to write something, like no matter how hard I would, I would try to, if I tried, no matter how hard, I wouldn't be able to write a Jethro Tull song, and it would, it would sound like, me, and it would be folkier than whatever. It would still sound like me, and so I don't worry too much because pretty much every song I've done, I could probably tell you what band sort of influenced it, or sort of what. It's more of a kind of I guess a sonic sort of canvas, like like when you listen to Uriah Heep or you listen to I don't know Encifrum, they kind of bring you to a place, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm kind of in a place similar to some of these bands when I'm writing this stuff, but I know that what I'm doing isn't it's still me. So so I do kind of check too though. Like I get Ray and Brendan like is there any did I rip anybody off with any of these riffs? And the answer is 99.9% of the time no. I guess I ripped off a Bathory riff in one of the demos, but I didn't think so. But and it did. But so anyway, we scrapped it and put a new one. But
yeah. I've like with my own guitar stuff, I kind of noticed I'll not be thinking it's such a big deal at the time if I'm hearing a bunch of something in one style, and then I'll start riffing and later come back and realize that it sounds just like another song. But I think there is something to be said for just each person being different enough, just kind of whenever they pick up a guitar or an instrument of any kind, they kind of, your stamp is going to show up on it some way. So, unless you are actually trying to rip someone else off, which is usually not the case.
Exactly, yeah. And so, but I think if I look at my listening habits, just sort of what I kind of subconsciously do, I think when I'm writing stuff, I'm usually just listening to the thing I'm writing and like other songs that like all the demos that I've kind of done around it. So it ends up being just a bunch of the stuff that I've done that is in my brain when I'm doing it. So I don't know. I guess I kind of maybe subconsciously kind of put up some blockers against that. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, if so, they're probably some pretty decent ones to have. But yeah, and I guess kind of a curiosity question I had too. Before you got into Woods of Ypres, were you like into them as a band back when they were first coming out in 02, 04 kind of era?
Oh, 04 for sure. Pursuit of the Sun was my album of like, let me think here. What year was that? Like 2005 for sure, and probably 2006. I was a big fan of that album. That like from like October till about March in like 2005, 2006. That album was just So anyway, I was a big fan of that one, and that's actually how I just sent David a bunch of demos, and he ended up liking some of them. But so I'd send him demos as early as like 2005, 2006. But it wasn't until 2008 that I sent him one I sent him the demo for Black Sky, and he just lost his mind over it, and he's like, dude, I'm going to drum for you. How's that sound? and this is like, that'd be like Devin Townsend being like, hey, I'm going to do vocals for your whole album. How's that sound?
Like, well, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, big fan of Woods. David even sent me a couple of, I think he sent me The Distractions of Living Alone and another song from Woods 3 before, like a few weeks before the release date. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting how, with Woods 4 and then Woods 5, it's cool to see the band getting more attention in general. I think it's with, probably part of it was getting the new label and, getting a little bit more of the production values going up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's cool to see because it's interesting watching all the live shows, and as far as I can tell, it's like Woods I guess you guys were basically like an underground band for basically your whole career, it seems, but now you guys are kind of starting to, in retrospect, you're getting more and more fans, and I think that's pretty cool,
Yeah, it is really cool. It's that's one thing that we talked about. We talked a lot about, do we sign with Earache? Because, basically we signed away, well, David signed away the entire Woods back catalog for like $5,000 or something like that. Like, I forget what the number was, but it wasn't very big. So, basically the contract, David had a lawyer, a music lawyer, friend in Toronto, and he, hired him to kind of look over the contract, and he came back to David with, 2 or 3 pages of amendments. And he's like, basically, this is borderline insulting, this contract, and here's some amendments that you could probably make, and basically we sent them back to Earache, and they're like, well, take it or leave it, bud. And so we talked a lot about it, and it's just like, well, one thing that this will give us will be, basically they'll get our name out there and they'll be able to promote. And so that was and it was sort of our key into Europe. So it was definitely worth it. And so that's sort of what we bought. Well, not what we bought, but that's what we got out of the Earache was their, I guess, reach. So yeah, so it's just really good to see. Really glad to see, Woods getting the recognition that it deserves. So it's, especially the first 4 albums. Because I thought they're all really good. Before I even joined the band. And so I'm glad to see that those albums are really getting, what they need, what they deserve. So it's good.
Yeah, that's cool. And actually, was coming off of that, now that you're doing Thrawsunblat, was it kind of a conscious decision, having worked with Earache, you were thinking, let's stay kind of an independent band for a while, or is it just that so far you haven't done that? Because I know you guys did the fundraiser, and that worked out quite well. So is that something you're looking at kind of continuing to do in the future for this band, or is it like a label potentially something you'll look at doing too?
Well, actually, it's it's been, we just kind of kept doing what I've been doing already with Thrawsunblat, and that was to keep it, independent, and it's nice that way because you get control, creative control, I guess, and you can kind of, we managed to build some sort of phenomenal fan base, and not just like, I'm not even talking in terms of like size or anything like that. I'm talking in terms of like the people, like they're just the coolest people out there, and so they when you put out a CD that they you're able to kind of know what sort of I guess, well, how do I put it, like, because they're just, I guess they're so loyal, and they're so all of them are just great, and they're just great people, because you can you send out you put out a CD, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, here we go, your inbox is, your PayPal is just full of and you can make your money back pretty quick. But I guess what makes them so awesome is just that the sort of messages you get, and like the photos that you get from them or whatever, and just sort of the comments on the Facebook page. And so if it weren't for that sort of just amazing group of people, then it'd be a lot tougher to do the indie thing. But and we'd probably search out more of a label thing. But as it is, I know it's pretty nice. I mean, of course, if Thrawsunblat 3 explodes, and there's that sort of demand, then of course then we look at it then. But basically for our goal right now, it's to be able to keep putting out music, and so what we have going is working pretty well. So it's quite a nice little setup. So yeah.
Yeah, in some ways, I guess one of the bonuses of, I guess, sort of the modern age of music is that, I guess it is maybe a bit easier to be independent, though, because people can be more familiar with these bands that they wouldn't have been able to know about otherwise. So, and I imagine that also helps with the fundraiser type of stuff, because I know a couple bands that I've checked out too. They've done that, and it's worked out really well for them, and that's becoming, I think bands are, people. Obviously you can still get everything online, but at the same time, I think that fans are kind of starting to feel the need to support the artists maybe a little bit more, just because of the success of Kickstarter and stuff like that,
Yeah, for sure.
Or at least, of course, we can hope that's the case,
Yeah.
But yeah, regretfully, I first discovered you guys like earlier this year, so I wasn't there at the time when you were doing the Kickstarter or the fundraiser thing. But
oh yeah, geez, no regrets at all. I'm really pleased that you even heard about us at all. And
yeah,
great.
No, oh yeah, sure. I'm happy that worked out for you guys too. So yeah, and I guess I think that covers most of the areas I wanted to talk about. It's been really cool getting to chat about all this.
Yeah, for sure. No, I really appreciate the call and all the questions. They're great. You've asked some very good questions, so it's been really good.
Thanks. Yeah, and I guess I'll just close off with when is the sort of rough idea we can expect Thrawsunblat 3 to be released?
Ooh, so I've got this concept where take what you expect and then add 30% to it. For like a date. For something, projected end date, or for, projected budget. So I'm going to say, let's see here, November, December, January, February, March, 30% decisions. So it's going to be probably March, April, mid-May, if I'm doing my 30% rule. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, so it's because Ray's hitting the studio with her drums first in December, and then once those get down, then I can start tracking rhythm guitar, and then everything can sort of start piling on at that point. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I know we'll all be looking forward to that, and that's cool to get kind of like a rough idea there. So yeah, thanks for the interview, and look forward to the new album.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the interview. Hey, anytime at all. It's you've been a lot of fun to chat with. So yeah, great.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and take care of yourself there, and I'm sure I'll chat to you soon.
All right, yeah, same. Have a good one.
Cheers, Garrick.
All right, bye.
Bye.